Alright, so let's go ahead and get this thing cleaned up and get the ring gear back on there. I just want to make it's pretty straightforward really. Just make sure it's clean and torque your bolts, but I wanted to show the 513 versus 410 gear. So the ring gear size itself doesn't change, right? So as you go through the different gear sizes, the ring gear gets thicker and the pinion gets smaller. So as you can see the thickness difference between the 513, which is on the bottom, and the factory 410, which is on top. Along with the thickness comes a flatter gear tooth profile, so the taper from this side to this side is slightly flatter, but not much. But that's the sacrifice you make as you go up in the gear sizes from the regular highway gear that's in the Sport or Sahara to the 410 to the 456, 488, 513. As you keep going up in gear size, the ring continues to get thicker and the pinion continues to get smaller. And there's a bunch of math that you can do to just figure out which gear is going to work for you. And this particular customer chose 513s. He's running 37 1250s, and it's going to work great. It's going to be a good setup. It's going to work just fine. So let's get, and you can buy acetone just about at any hardware store. And I got this can at Lowe's. Definitely helps to have acetone in the garage. You can pretty much get everything as clean as it can be, or should be, rather. Clean all this residue off of the new ring gear. It's a Yukon ring gear. Looks awesome. And then we will flip that upside down, flip the carrier upside down. And as you can see, my carrier doesn't have any bearings on it right now. And the reason for that is just so I don't ever run into an issue where I accidentally bend a new carrier cage. Like this is the new carrier bearing, the big carrier bearing that will go on this side. As I'm putting the ring gear on and I'm flipping it around and going through the torque process, just to remove any possibility of me damaging new bearings by dinging or hitting this cage, I just put them on after the ring gear. I press them on after the ring gear. Even though it makes the carrier heavier, it's just a less of a risk. And your new kit should come with new bolts. So we'll just slide this guy up here, and we'll put one bolt in on this side. Basically the opposite of taking it off, of course. Then we'll put one bolt in on this side, which will help us hold the ring gear in place. And now we put these all in by hand first. Do not use an impact to drive these in until they're ready, until they're all threaded in, 2 or 3 threads. It's the same thing as lug nuts. It's actually kind of hard to strip or cross thread these bolts, but your impact will destroy the bolt if you're not careful. So always put these in by hand first. And once you do that, then you can tighten it down. But it's very important to use a star pattern here, at least to get the ring set on the carrier, because the ring itself has got a beveled edge here. I can show you on the original here. This edge is beveled, and there's a piece on the carrier that's machined. It's a machined lip where this ring gear is going to center itself. It's going to center itself on the carrier. And you want to make sure that it's drawn into that equally. If you can see it or not. Yeah, you can kind of see it in there. So we want this to be drawn in equally before we start hammering on it with the impact. So let's do that real quick. Well, as soon as that even gets remotely snug, come to the other side until it gets snug. And just go in a star pattern without hammering on it too hard here. And once it's flush, you can see it's flush here and it's not flush here, right? So we want to make sure we draw it up nice and even. Gap on this side here, and that should do it. That should at least get it up to where it's seated all the way around. And now that it's seated, you can run everything else down and then just go ahead and torque everything in a star pattern. And I don't hammer on it with the impact too much. I usually just let the torque wrench do all of that. Because once these things are snug, they don't move very much to get to the torque value. Other than that, we'll get back at it with the next video, so we can press bearings on and just show everybody how to do that. And don't make the mistake of pressing the small bearing on until you put your locker solenoid assembly back together, which we'll run a video for that as well. All right, bye.